Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we'll make a puzzle piece for a UV printer jig. So my company has very large customers and very small customers. We make UV printing jigs for small customers and large ones. The large ones have generally larger tables, and that causes you sort of unique circumstances because it's very easy to make a jig that say that's 2 feet by 4 feet or whatever. That's pretty straightforward. The jig is a little bit, unmanageable a little bit, but it's still sort of manageable. But when you get to larger jigs, in this case here, the jig was even larger than 4 feet by 4 feet. It's something that you have to keep in mind is you have to have an employee pick it up, move it around, store it, all these kind of things. And that causes issue in the business because now you have, pay me workers' comp if they trip and fall on something and they got a huge jig they can't see anything over. So a way around that is to actually make it as puzzle pieces. So you turn something unmanageable to something that's lightweight and very manageable, and you can sort of mix and match depending on the process you're using on that day. So let's say you're making let's just randomly, let's say you're doing a whole bunch of golf balls and you're doing a whole bunch of license plates. Now generally what we do is we make a jig for license plates and a jig for golf balls. But if you have a table that if you have a very large table and a very cool machine, you can actually do all this stuff at the same time. But you don't know how many golf balls you're going to have, you don't know how many license plates you're going to have. So by going this way, using puzzle pieces, it means that you can have optimal production because you can spread across the whole table. You know where the golf balls are, you know where the license plates are, and you can just do it that way. It also allows for production. So let's say this one is all printed up and the customer grabs it. Well, now they could just carry it to wherever they need to do for post-processing. While a sheet that would originally be 4 feet by 4 feet, now you need another guy to help you out to carry it, again, for safety and a bunch of other issues. So when it comes to making custom puzzle jigs like you see here, the options are totally endless. If you wanted a square puzzle, rectangular puzzle, shape of an animal, whatever, totally works for us, not a problem. There are some limitations to every machine though. So let's say you want what you see here made out of stainless steel. We use the water jet or the laser depending on the tolerances involved in the quantity. If you wanted, let's say, to have interlocking pieces but they only fit one way, in this case here they fit multiple ways, then of course you have to update your design. So what half the work involved with something like this here is actually figuring out a design that works for you and for your application. The other half is actually figuring out how to manufacture it afterwards. Now the nice thing about making puzzles like this is, again, with something this large, originally this whole thing was going to be a huge jig. And warping will definitely happen on something the larger it is. So keeping things small but still interlock is just a wonderful idea, not just for the jig, but also for storage, for moving it around and so forth. Now this isn't the first puzzle we've made at CNCKing.com. I've made quite a few puzzles in the past. It's just been a while since we actually made it for an application this unique. And that was kind of fun because normally most of the jigs we make are roughly 20 inches by about 30 or 40 inches, and that's about it. Stick it in the UV printer and they do their UV printing. This one here is for a massive UV printer, and this solution to the problem of having something so big is just, I just keep raving about it. It's just such an amazing idea. I'm so happy the customer came up with it, and in hindsight, it's so completely obvious. It's such a great idea. Now, whenever you do stuff with a router, like with laser or water jet or mill or anything, you always want to carve out the inside to everything cleaned out. And then after that, you cut it out. This makes sure that all your tolerances involved with the whole project are still tight until the very, very end. Because once you cut them out, they're not going to move here, but if they did, they're only going to move from the outer diameter or the outer surface, not from the inside. We can literally make jigs out of any material. In this case here is 3/4 inch MDF, and that's totally fine. Especially if you have a table with a very strong vacuum system. Any kind of material they work with, even aluminum, you do need mechanical hold downs, because the issue you got to keep in mind is we're clearing out the top part, but doing nothing on the bottom part. And that creates a stress on the jig or whatever we're doing in that case. And it wants to sort of come up a little bit because it can. There's not sort of equal tension this way and that way. So with a vacuum system, even the jigs I make here in the shop, I use a vacuum system. This table has a vacuum system. So even when I have a jig that's a little bit more folded, it sucks it right down and holds it down. Now if we were doing this using aluminum, you probably want to have screw holes or something like that to screw it down to the table, even with a vacuum system. So there's no sort of perfect material for UV printing jigs. There's just different processes involved, different materials. Depends on what you're doing with post-processing, pre-processing, and so forth. So looking for custom UV printer jigs, contact me at CNCKing.com. We'll make them for you to like literally any spec and make them for you and ship them right to your door.